Hey, welcome everyone. This is Rick Hoffman, your host with the Kels Group, aka the Drowning Warriors, coming to you with episode number 45 of our weekly Drowning Warrior Spotlight. We'll be spotlighting and talking to Chani Mehlman. She is a swim instructor and a certified life coach and addiction specialist. But before we do get into all that, I just want to say it's February 21st here in Ohio. I don't know about your neck of the woods, but I'll tell you what, Mother Nature has no clue what time of year or season she wants to have it. Yesterday, wake up, we got 4 or 5 inches of snow. It gets warm, it rains, the stuff is melting. It's supposed to be like 60 degrees this weekend. So all I know is, just wait in an hour or two here in Ohio. The weather's going to be different. So wish Mother Nature decide what season. I vote for spring. So spring and summer, we know it's just around the corner. But with that being said, hey, I want to take a moment here. Make sure you get over to our resource page at thekelsgroup.com. Check out our champions that currently are in partnership with us right now. But with that being said, I want to feature one of our top champions here, which is the Wave system. And a little bit of information here. I'm going to ask you a question. How would you like to have a stopwatch on every swimmer? You know, drowning is the leading cause of death to children. It's the leading cause of accidental death to children under the age of 5. But an alarming 88% of those drownings occur under supervision. And just like my daughter's situation, she drowned 8 feet away from a lifeguard. Technology can help solve this problem. It doesn't replace the ability to learn to swim and other things, but with existing proven technologies to be able to track time spent under the water, and then a simple, reliable, affordable plug and play right out of the box, no underwater assembly required. You can go to www.wavedds.com or just go over to thekelsgroup.com, click on our champions page, our resource section, and you'll see them listed right at the top of the page, along with many of the other champions that are currently partnering with the Kels Group and the Drowning Warriors. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this episode. So, like I said in the beginning, we're going to be talking to Chani Mehlman. She is a swim instructor working with children and adults, helping adults overcome their fear of water. But she also possesses some special skills as a life coach and an addictions counselor. She works helping people set goals, helping them overcome their fear. So if you're a swim instructor struggling with some of that, definitely you want to connect with her, and maybe she can also partner with you and help you through that process. But the other part of that coin is also, if you're just struggling with certain situations there, you're an aquatic professional struggling with the stresses of everyday work and what we go through in this industry, you want to stay tuned for this. You want to stay for the rest of this episode. So I've been rambling on enough. So instead of me giving you all the accolades and all the information here, let's just go ahead and cue the music. I got myself a bottle of water, not any coffee right now, so it's a bottle of water, and we will go ahead and cue the music maestro, and let's get this episode started. Hello, I'm Rick Hoffman. I'm part of a new breed of people. We call ourselves the Drowning Warriors. We have a voice for those who no longer have a voice, and for those that do have a voice, we project it as loud as we can, because what we know can and does save lives. We wage war every day with people that just don't believe that it can happen to them. We must do things differently. We take massive action as a team. We must do things smarter. We must also be effective with our message from day one. You see, the average person does not believe that it can happen to them, but yet it happens every day. Drowning does not discriminate. It has no boundaries. It is fast. It is silent. It hits when you least expect it. So we fight every day to be heard, to get our messages out to the masses. We are the Drowning Warriors, and these are our stories.
All right. Hey, welcome everybody. This is Rick Hoffman, your host with the Kels Group, aka the Drowning Warriors, and we are here with this week's episode, and we are spotlighting Chani Mehlman. She is a life coach, but she also has background as a swim instructor, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about what she's done, where she's been, and I know that she works with she is a certified life coach, works with and also addictions counselor, and she works with individuals and helps them track their life, get their life on track and lead happy lives. And I know a lot of our listeners being in the water safety drowning prevention community, like myself, we've lost loved ones due to drowning. A lot of our aquatic professionals are, just struggle with everyday, life and the events and the stresses and all those things. So, hey, Connie, welcome to our podcast here today.
Hi, Rick. Thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, why don't you just take a few minutes here and just kind of explain to our listeners a little bit about your background and kind of how maybe how you wound up becoming a life coach.
How did I wind up becoming a life coach? That's a great question. The truth is I only just have a simple answer. I always felt a calling towards it. Growing up, people were always asking my advice, and they seemed pleased with, what I had told them and how I helped them. So then I just pursued being a life coach. It felt right. And then once I started studying it, it was just one thing led to the next.
All right. Hey, you also work with, I know you have a swim instructor business too. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm a swim instructor as well.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming that between the two, that's kind of like a balancing act between the two, where you're spending some time, coaching and teaching swimming, and then, between the two?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so right now I spend part of my time working in the coaching field and the other part of the time teaching swimming. Actually, my focus is mainly helping people overcome their fears. I do that in coaching as well as with swimming. And I find that there's a large correlation between helping a person overcome their fears, both in aquatics as well as in the coaching field.
Okay. Yeah, I think, we've had some guests on here that really focus on, in the aquatics area, focus with adults, and with adults having a fear of water and getting into the water, my wife being one of them. And but at the same time, my daughter is one where, my oldest daughter, that is, she was there at the pool when her younger sister drowned. And so she has had this fear and phobia, whatever you want to call it, around water, especially now that she's a mother with 3 children. So I know that's been a big challenge for her. Now, is this something that life coaching can help people through that particular type of process?
So life coaching, it helps people really to set goals and achieve them and overcome any mindset blocks that may be blocking them from achieving those goals. One of the things that I think is a huge support in coaching is having someone to really bounce your ideas off of, talk to your fears about, and they can really listen and understand you. One of the things in coaching that's key to a successful coaching relationship is that the coach is able to really listen and to hold what the other person is saying. And that process in of itself, just being heard by someone, I think has lots of healing properties in it. And I would say that's where the majority of the support you would get from a coach would be with that type of a fear.
Would you say, as far as with your swim instructor business that you do, working with somebody that may have fear around water, so you've had opportunities to actually work with them and say both, as far as both aspects of that, working not only helping them with the swimming, but also using some of your life coaching practices and what be able to listen to what their fears are? Is that something that really has helped through that process too?
Yeah, 100%. I actually had a client I was working with, a swimming client, and it was an adult, and he was having a hard time. She said breathing underwater, and I said, you don't breathe underwater. So she was having a hard time blowing bubbles underwater. And, I think that for her, it was really the fear, and she was very anxious to, I have to swim, I have to do it right. And I realized, this isn't even a WSI problem at the moment. I guess WSI could cover it. A WSI is water safety instruction for anyone who's listening and knows what that is. That's a certification for swimming instructors. But I thought it was just, you needed to be patient with herself and trust in the process that, to know I will be okay if I go underwater and try to blow bubbles. I'm not going to die. And the fear, I'm going to die if I do X, Y, and Z, whatever that may be, is a very real fear for a lot of people. So this is just how it applied to one of my clients in swimming. And we did a lot of practicing of patience and knowing I'm going to be okay and just trusting I will be okay, and I'm going to just try one step at a time. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and we'll work towards it. And we were working through the need to be perfect, or for Dad to be perfect. She learned to swim much more quickly. and I saw the change. It was amazing to watch.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I imagine it probably just to see somebody work through that process and kind of, in some ways, kind of walk them through and maybe help them solve some of their own personal issues around that, it sounds like. So I would think that would be an awesome experience, number one, to be able to see somebody develop and work through those events in their life and basically put that part of their life back behind them so they can maybe enjoy the water, enjoy family vacations, enjoy, their family in the water, and also developing a healthy respect for the water too. So, yeah. Now, I know you used to live in Maryland. You've been to Israel, and you now find yourself in the beautiful state of Florida, down in sunny Miami of all places. I just hate people like you because it's snowing here at my house today. So, but anyways, what's the process there? How did you find yourself in Miami of all places? I mean, obviously, I think from water safety, doing that aspect of what you do is probably is very important. It's important wherever you're at, but Miami's surrounded by lots of water. But how did you kind of go from where you went? From Maryland?
That's a great question. So we'll start from Maryland. I grew up in Maryland, and then after I graduated high school, I went to a gap year program in Israel. And 1 year really turned into 7. And then over those 7 years, so let's start with Maryland. So I was brought up in Maryland, where I grew up, and then after high school, I went for a gap year program to Israel. Now in this gap year program, the purpose of it for me was really just to kind of go out and have fun. I guess after high school, that's pretty much what I wanted to do. And it was actually a super meaningful year for me. I really believe I found the foundations of the person I wanted to be and really got a foundation in my faith. And, at the time I didn't realize how important faith would be in my life through different hardships. But through that connection, 1 year turned into 7 years. And I ended up going to school there. I ended up pursuing life coaching, addiction counseling, and I also studied psychotherapy during my time. After I finished studying, I wanted to come back to America so I would be able to reach more English speakers with my life coaching career. And because I feel it's very important to really help people move past their triggers and their emotional blocks so they can manage them and have a balanced life. And of all places, I chose Florida because since my background is in swimming, I knew I can come here and I would have lots of people where I can teach them swimming. And I think it's an amazing thing. And I can do it all year round because it's warm. So that was really how the decision was made.
Huh. Well,
I guess it's fair that you hate me for it.
No, I don't really hate you. I envy you. It's what probably is a better.
Yeah, no, I know.
Better word. I just, one of those things that's in my head. I just want to be on a nice beach with a palm tree and a little drink with an umbrella, and that's the way I want to spend my day. But no, I got to look outside and watch it snow and everything. But oh well, somebody's got to do that, right?
That's what I was running from.
Well, I can't say I blame you. I think I'd like Key West or where's going down there in the Florida Keys. I think keep going south. Down into the Caribbean. I don't know. Beautiful place to be. I will say that much. But no, that's very, very interesting what you're saying as far as your time in Israel and what you learned there. I mean, based on what you know, as far as looking at say Israel, in looking at let's look at aquatics first, as far as water safety. How is that difference there than here? Is it real important? Because I know Israel's along the coast and everything. So, how important does water safety play in the scheme of things there?
So that's actually a super interesting question that you're asking me. Israel is very strict on their requirements for becoming a water safety instructor. And also for being a lifeguard. I don't remember the requirements right now, that's the truth. But I do remember that I think for certifying as a lifeguard to get in, you had to swim 4 laps, 2 breaststroke, and 2 freestyle or front crawl, I think in under 50 seconds, if I'm correct. And that's a challenge for a lot of people. A lot of people who actually get certified by the Red Cross in America can't necessarily pass the qualifications in Israel. So that was quite a challenge and a shock when I had learned about that. And the purpose behind that, I don't know if this is 100% true, but someone told me that it's because of the Olympics, they want to really train the people well, and they want to try to get really strong teams. And then otherwise, I know that in general, Israel, they take security very safely. So security or safety, anything regarding that, and they set the standard super high. Also in scuba diving, I'm also a scuba diver, and I went to go diving, and I hadn't been diving in the past year, and they made me do a refresher course, whereas in America, I think it's a little bit different. I don't exactly remember, but I think in Israel the standard is either every 6 months or every year you have to have a stamp in your dive book. So when it comes to swimming, they're very, very strict. The pools, actually, everyone has to wear a bathing cap in the pool, and that's to protect the pool for its cleanliness and stuff. So very, very interesting, the difference between America and Israel when it comes to safety in the pool.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know, like here in the United States, as far as for lifeguard certification or for when a lifeguard applies for a job or whatever, one of the things is they've got to be able to swim like 300 meters or whatever that is, but it's not timed. I mean, they can take as long as they can complete it. Whereas if they're saying they have to do something in 50 seconds, I can see where now that's being timed. It's a shorter distance, but it's also timed. Which I think is probably real important. I think you would want a lifeguard to be able to get out into the water as quickly as possible. So that's an interesting point. Why we don't maybe time them here in the United States to make sure that they could get, once they're into the water, they can get to where they need to go very quickly, because when somebody's in trouble, seconds count, time counts. I mean, especially if they're underwater. Let's kind of switch gears here a little bit. And I know, with your life coaching practice and everything that you work there, and I know you work with people in addictions and everything, but there's a couple of topics here I think are really important. I think what interests me is, number one is, we have a good portion of our listeners that have suffered a loss. They're grieving a loss of a child or a loved one, and they find themselves maybe a couple years down the road, but they've been thrown into this. Maybe being thrown is not the right word, but they find themselves within this community of water safety, drowning prevention, kind of running a foundation, maybe trying to build a business or build, a following to try to improve the situation so another family member or somebody, doesn't have to go through what they've gone through. Now, is that something that life coaching can help somebody like that, or maybe somebody even like myself, years after an event like this?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question exactly. Can life coaching help them with what kind of an event?
Well, for example, if they've lost a loved one to a drowning, being you have that water safety background and as an instructor, but you also have your life coaching. Can life coaching help somebody process through or make that transition maybe later down the road, maybe 2-3 years later?
So the thing with life coaching is life coaching in of itself, it's more about goal setting. But because my background is I did addiction counseling in addition to life coaching, I like to be able to incorporate both. The addiction counseling piece of this is that lots of people who are suffering with addiction, there's a lot of grief that they feel, and the grief usually comes from an emotional loss. And, that piece of the emotional loss is, I think where my style of coaching would be able to really help someone in that situation. A person who's, going through a loss at, different stages of the loss, there's two ways you can look at it. Someone can see a psychologist or a social worker and maybe do a lot more inner child work or something like that. But the coaching would be more about processing it and, kind of having someone to talk to about it who understands and can help you kind of put together a game plan as to how you can, live with this loss and still be able to experience a happy life.
Yeah, you mentioned happy life. I mean, for I know a lot of our listeners, I know they struggle with that. Even though they may have, siblings, other children also besides the child or their loved one that have passed away due to, we'll just, because we are all about water safety, drowning prevention here. So, we'll just kind of focus on a drowning, or maybe even a non-fatal drowning, where that's a situation that has really changed their life and adds a lot of stress. So if somebody has a goal around trying to eliminate some of the stress in their life as a result of maybe either a fatal drowning or a non-fatal drowning, is that something you could help them with if they have a goal to, I don't know what their improved, maybe it is just to be able to get back to work and be able to maybe, function, I guess, in the normal world, I guess, is for the lack of a better term, because really, as a parent who's lost a child to a drowning, life has changed and life is not normal anymore, but I guess you could refer to it as the new normal. So that's something you can actually help somebody through then, right?
Exactly, yes. To help them take their life from, maybe some people use the word unmanageable. That's a term a lot of people will use when they're kind of battling with grief, and to be able to get back to manageable, balance. And usually when your life is manageable and balanced, it'll also come with joy and happiness.
Interesting. Let's kind of switch the idea here a little bit. Instead of maybe talking about a parent or a loved one, let's say we're talking with an aquatics professional, maybe say aquatics director, and obviously they have a lot of stress. The ones that I've talked to, they live in a very stressful environment, but many of them are wanting to improve their careers and take their career to the next level. Is that something that say life coaching can help somebody improve their career or move their career forward also?
Yeah, I definitely think it could. There's two different types of coaching that would help people with moving their career forward, depending on what they want. If they're looking to build a career, they're looking more at maybe business coaching or something of that matter. If they're looking for more of how to, I guess, work through inner challenges, maybe mindset blocks, maybe they don't believe in themselves that they can move forward, maybe it's hard for them to leave their job for whatever reason, anything that's emotionally related, a life coach can help them with.
Okay. Yeah, for an example, part of my story I talk about when I go back to my daughter's accident, I didn't, a lot of the self-talk that I told myself was I wasn't good enough, I wasn't worthy, I'm not smart enough, so a lot of this was just the self-talk that, you just kind of play back in your own head, but you kind of justify it by thinking, hey, this is what the world is telling me. So really, if somebody has a position like that, is that what you're talking about when somebody is saying, hey, I'm just not good enough, or is that what you're referring to there?
Exactly. You got it.
Okay. That's my mental picture. Hopefully everybody listening, so if you're struggling with a situation right now, or maybe it's an ongoing situation where you just don't feel good enough or worthy to be doing what you're doing, then this might be a great suggestion or a great avenue for you, especially if you are an aquatics instructor and you're teaching, swim lessons and you want to grow your business. I'm sure that is something that a lot of people you talk to probably run into. Is that correct?
100%. And honestly, that's what a lot of things come down to. People don't usually realize that they don't see their work, or they don't feel they're good enough. They usually come with a different problem. It could be, it doesn't work for me, I'm just not good at this, or, I don't know, it could be anything. And then, I get to know the person a bit more. I'll go through certain questions that I'll ask them to deepen the understanding of what's really the problem. And we usually get to a mindset block. Very often it's, I'm not good enough.
Okay. Would you say sometimes I know in my case it was a life event that really kind of set me down that path, and I had to do a lot of my own self-discovery, working through my issues over the last 25 years. But for most people, would you say that part of their struggle is a life event in the past that maybe has set them down that road that they're going?
Yes, definitely. For some people, it's a life event, and for some people, it's a challenging childhood. For this podcast, though, I guess we'll focus on, you're talking about the death of a child from a pool, and that is a huge, huge, huge event that will change your life forever. And it's amazing because it's something that happens, so quickly. And then from that day on, you're really looking at building a totally new life. No matter where you were before, you have to start back again and work through the grief and to really build yourself a new life. And a lot of times this is where people will find a greater connection with their higher power. Because when people typically, like it depends on how you're brought up or what you've been, around. Some people grew up going to churches or synagogues or mosques, and then other people weren't. After people go through something, that will cause them a lot of grief and to really start a new life, they will find a spiritual connection. And I think that really is one of the core things in the new life that they build.
Okay. You were saying something there. It made me think of something personal to me as far as with my wife. My wife's situation, she has a fear of water, about putting her face in the water that goes back to when she was a child. And part of that was with her brother, holding her head underwater. They're just playing. I mean, it wasn't anything he was trying to hurt her, but, because it was a struggle and she remembers this. So is that, because she has a fear of the water, so she'll get in the pool and she'll get in lakes and things like that, but she will not put her face in the water. She doesn't like that at all, let alone somebody even splashing water in her face. So that's kind of what you're referring to in that situation. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Because for her, that's very triggering. And it's not simply just splashing water in her face. It's about what it's triggering and bringing up with her.
Okay. Now, is this something that you could, let's say an aquatics or a swimming instructor is listening to our podcast right now, and they have a student or a client that they're working with who may be an adult or they have some type of fear, but they're having some issues working through that fear with them. Is that something that you can partner with those instructors possibly to help them or be able to teach them some things that they may be able to do? Is that something that, would be beneficial?
100%. I think it would be very beneficial. When I work with people on their fears in the water, I usually use more of a life coaching approach than a swimming approach, and it speeds up the process and they learn and begin to pick it up much more quickly because the root of the challenge is that they're scared. It's not that they don't have the skills. They very much so actually do have the skills. And when you teach a person how to work through the fear and you do it slowly with them, it enhances the experience for everybody. And, for a person to not just learn how to swim, but also overcome a fear in the process, it's an amazing thing. And I think I definitely could be able to partner with people.
Yeah, I mean, because I have spoken to many instructors who work with adults in this area, and everybody has their, I guess you could call it methodology, is how they, work or they work people through that fear. Because I know that's probably a very challenging situation and probably takes a lot of time. It's probably something that doesn't happen like 5 minutes in the water, probably, right?
Right, exactly. The truth is, it does happen quickly, but I wouldn't say necessarily 5 minutes. The quickest I've helped someone overcome a fear, I'd say within a half-hour session. But it was at the end of the session. Yeah.
Kind of looking at your website here too. You actually have a blog on your website. And we'll make sure that we have a link to your website in our show notes, so those who are listening, they can go to your website and read your blog. Are there articles in your blog that's there that may help some people with just some basic information?
Basic information regarding my articles right now are more around life coaching than aquatics.
Well,
specific topic?
No, nothing really specific, really. I'm kind of like looking here when you click on the blog page. You have what it reads. Who is my real self? You're talking here, and you talk about things about real self and false self. But I'm assuming you have some articles and things around some of those. Is that correct? Like creating a balance, the life balance, and then emotional health, and so there's articles there that maybe might help some people along, at least as far as information, what you're talking about here, right?
Definitely. And I think knowing your real self and being able to be your real self could be a very healing piece of, creating a new life after experiencing a death in the family. When you get to know your real self and you don't feel the need to really hide, I don't know that that's a problem for everybody when they go through grief. However, if you get to know your real self and you're feeling your emotions, what it means to get to know your real self is to, who am I? What am I feeling? You're taking off the mask that you're showing the world to try to fit in or be accepted. You're not asking yourself, what are they going to think of me? You're just thinking, who am I? And it's kind of, the more you get to know yourself, it's like an onion. I call it like a whack-a-mole onion. Peel off is another game of whack-a-mole. They're popping up and they're popping down. And the whack-a-mole is your emotions. And you never know what's going to come. And it's, and that's really the process of getting to know your real self. And the more you know your real self, you'll be able to connect more with people. And I think connection is one of the key things that, one, we're missing in society, but is one of the main factors in being able to heal from, a loss and experiencing grief, is being able to connect with people. And if you can connect with yourself, you can then share that with other people. And it's important that there's safe people to share it with as well. And through that connection, there's a lot of hope that's born.
Yeah, wow. I mean, one of the things is we were talking on the phone the other day, and I'd mentioned that I've been through a lot of therapy and counseling through my life with the loss of my daughter, a divorce, and everything that's going on in my life. But, the one thing I'm kind of drawing the conclusion here, I know counseling and therapy is kind of helps you cope with a situation. Would that be a good assessment of what a counselor or a therapist might do?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. And so with that being said, as far as life coaching is much more about a transformation in your life. And so that's really where the difference is at. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think coaching, the coaching field, we focus a lot on that transformation in the field. And we want you to see a huge transformation in your life. And the way you get to a transformation is by setting goals. And it's not just this cold, businessy, we're setting goals, goodbye. You're not going like a financial advisor where it's just about the numbers. We take everything into account. Whereas a therapist, it really depends on the therapist, that's the truth. But typically, they're also equipped to deal with mental illness, and it's a slower process where you go through, your childhood. You may do inner child work. It's a slower process to help people really heal from trauma, but it's not as focused on the goals as coaching is.
Right. Yeah, so in other words, you're not helping somebody manifest $1 billion lottery ticket in their life, then.
Right, exactly.
So,
it's helping people to really learn what a dream life is. We all have this, you want this dream life, and, the TV shows us what dream life is, the magazines show us what dream life is, movies show us what a dream life is, and the truth is, it's all a lie. It's really not true. It's when we have a dream life, it's when we're balanced, it's when we're calm, we have serenity, we have loved ones around us, we love ourselves, we know our value, and we can really ask for what we need and, watch ourselves succeed in life and be surrounded by loved ones through the process. That's really what a dream life is, and that's what a coach can help you do.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I know some of my listeners, and then I have friends and people that I reach out to from time to time who've lost a loved one, and some of their situations as far as grief and loss when around around a drowning is still relatively recent, and I know many of them just don't feel like they can get back to that so-called dream life, maybe the life that they thought they could have before their loss. But I'm 25 years later, and I believe I'm kind of an example to that. To say I believe you can get back to where it is you need to be in your life as far as what you want to achieve and the goals that you want to set. So, as we begin to kind of wrap up, Chani, is there? If you could say something to somebody around the importance of what a life coach could do for them, regardless of whether or not they're suffering from grief or trying to improve their career. How would you sum that up, or what would be the one suggestion you could give somebody?
The one suggestion I would give is follow your heart, and anything that comes up, figure out how to overcome it.
Wow, that might be easy. That's definitely easier said than done.
Probably, yes, very, very much easier said than done. It's funny because a lot of times I feel like the answers come across as cliche, but I think, when things seem cliche, it's because it's easier said than done. And because it's not a long article and then people go, wow, oh, that's so detailed and profound. Sometimes something very simple can be so deeply profound. And, we don't follow our heart. And sometimes we know what direction our heart's telling us to go, and sometimes we don't. But the times that we do, we often don't listen to it because we're so caught up in, thinking we're not good enough. And sometimes we don't realize that that's the reason. And we will make up excuses and believe it. And that process of not giving up on your dreams, not giving up on what your heart is telling you want, is a journey in of itself. And it's deeply profound, and it's a beautiful journey. And, it's not the goal really that matters. It's really the journey where the magic happens.
I know my journey hasn't always been the greatest, but I think some of the challenges that we have in our life, those are the things that stand out that we remember the most. And when I look back at it, sometimes that's where growth has always taken place. And I can look back at that and say to myself, it's just the better time of my life. I mean, is when I struggled. It always seems those particular points in time seem to stand out in my memory. The really good times, pleasant times, I guess they were good, but I don't remember them as much. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. But no, Connie, if somebody needed... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, it just is. We don't need to... That's one of the things that we do as people often, is we'll judge things, and it's good, it's bad. And you know what? You remember it, you don't remember it, and it just is. It's a part of life.
Life does have its curveballs, I guess, as the saying goes, as I remember my dad always saying to me. Connie, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you and maybe talk to you a little bit about this process or how life coaching could help, or they just want some additional information, what's the best way that somebody can reach out to you?
The best way for someone to reach out to me, they could either send me an email or they can find me on Instagram or Facebook message me. I'm on social media.
Alrighty. Yeah, I know you and we met on LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn is a great place to meet people, and so that's we'll make sure we have all those links in our show notes, so that way if you're driving down the road right now and whatever you might be doing, don't worry about jotting any of this information down. Just go to thekelsgroup.com, and we will make sure we have links to her website and all her contact information to make sure you can get in touch with her. Connie here to maybe talk about your situation, and maybe how life coaching, or maybe putting the two together with, if you're an aquatics or even an aquatics person or a swim instructor, how the two can really work together. So, Connie, I really appreciate your time. Hey, I every now and then I hear some music in the background. Are you like a really festive place right now, or?
I'm sitting in a Starbucks.
Okay, Starbucks. There you go. Hey, I love in the morning their breakfast rolls, their rolls and stuff for breakfast. I love those things and everything. But I'm a diabetic, so I should not eat those. But yeah, Starbucks.
Don't worry, I won't tell your dietitian.
Yeah, I only do that when I go on trips and everything. But other than that, I stay away from places like that when I'm driving down the road and everything. But we appreciate your time and everything. And we'll, like I said before, we'll make sure we have everything in our show notes. And so, Connie, again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to be on your show.
Alrighty. Hey, we'll see everybody next week.
Hey, great episode with Chani Mehlman. Episode number 45 is in the books. But hey, make sure you get over to thekelsgroup.com. You can subscribe to our podcast there, but also you can connect with Chani through our show notes there, or to her website and social media channels. Learn a little bit more about life coaching and how that can help you in your situation as we tackle this challenge of drowning prevention, water safety. Also, get over to our resource page and check out our champions, those that are partnered with the Kels Group, aka the Drowning Warriors, such as our top champion, which is the Wave system. It is the latest in drowning detection technology, and it monitors how much time each child spends underwater, alerting your team at the first sign of any danger at www.dds.com. Go check them out. Hey, I want to say thanks. We will see you guys next week.